Well, thank you, Christy and Maria, Cindy. It's a pleasure. And C.A.R. Thank you for all your help and getting this thing off and running. And I hope it's one of many to come. I'm going to come out with the second edition of my book in 22, and I've added about 2 or 3, maybe 4 chapters. So I'm excited about that. And I've got a lot of things to share today with you. And those of you that are in career transition, which I would imagine most of you are, I've got a pretty detailed presentation. I know people say less is more when it comes to PowerPoint, but I always do more is better. How's that? So I'm going to give you as much as I can in the short amount of 25 slides. And I like everything to kind of really go naturally. So if you blurt out a question or say, excuse me, I have a question, or Mark, feel free to jump right in so we can clear up any thoughts, or you can post things, I guess, in the chat. And then I don't know, I think Christy, you're going to moderate the chat for me. Is that right? So,
I sure will. So put your questions in the chat, and then we'll make sure that there's time for Mark to answer them.
Yeah. So I guess we'll start right now. Is that right, Christy? Yes.
Go right ahead. Jump in.
So welcome to your coffee clutch here at the Executive Boot Camp on a Friday, which is a great day to have a meeting because it's the weekend. Yay. So what I'll do is start this slideshow. There you go. Everybody see that pretty good? Thumbs up? Yep, good. I've been doing this for quite a while. I've merged a lot of information into this deck, and you're all going to get a copy of it, by the way. I've already sent it over to Maria, and she'll be sending it over to everyone, I guess, sometime later, maybe today. So you don't have to do snapshots or screenshots to get the information back to you. You'll have the whole presentation ready to go. So a little bit about me. Thank you for the introduction. I guess I don't know where to start. I started my company in '99, and it was out of a need because I was a recruiter. I had been, entrenched in hiring and sourcing and assessing and negotiating offers for hundreds of candidates that I've placed. And we had a 9/11 thing happened, obviously 20 years ago. And I had a lot of friends and family come to me who had lost their job, and they said, Mark, can you help me? I know you're good at this stuff. Would you look at my resume? I've got a big interview. Can you help me through the process? And I just gradually started to get into it. I was invited into Lehigh Terracin, now known as LHH, as an adjunct. And, I realized it was cookie cutter, and I decided I wanted to make something that I would like if I was one of the clients receiving the services of outplacement and career transition coaching. So I created higher consulting services as kind of a hybrid, both recruiting and coaching, small business, really, just bootstrapped it. I've always wanted to write a book. I put together Keys to the C-Suite. I had all the chapters. It was not hard. I thought it was going to be harder. It took me about 7 months to get it all together. And now it's on Amazon. It's doing really well. Very proud of it. And, to write a book, it's almost like having a baby. Don't take it the wrong way. There's lots of evolution in the way that your book comes together. You think it's going to be just the way you think it is, and it ends up different. So, but you love it as much along the way. And now there's all kinds of enjoyment just having a book instead of a business card. I'm a certified personnel consultant, which was awarded by NAPS back in 1998. It's a certification that took 6 months of study, and I had to pass at the University of Cincinnati in Cincinnati, Ohio, with 85% or better, and it's a 5-hour exam. So, and it's all about employment law, code of ethics, EEOC, all the acts of passed by Congress in regards to equal hiring. And oh my gosh, it was I'll never want to do it again, but I'm glad I did. I've done the CareerNet meetings since '05, used to be called ExecuNet. Those of you that have been to my meetings, you may remember we used to do them in person. About a year and a half ago, everything stopped doing that. And, I would really love to get back into the face-to-face boardroom. Hopefully someday that'll happen. But for now, we're doing online virtual, and our meetings are on the third Thursday of the month. I am also a Predictive Index certified partner, which is one of the benchmark talent selection assessments. It's really not a test, it's a survey. And it only takes 6 to 10 minutes to do online. And over 10,000 companies are using it. 20 million people have been exposed to the Predictive Index assessment. It's all software as a service online. And then I created a blog back in '06. The blog is alive and kicking. It's on my website. And you'll get the link at the end of the presentation if you want to look at a lot of things that I do and post that I think about. And, it's a lot more than the book, and it's a lot more than what you'll get today, but you'll see that I'm certainly, I'm focused on everything from attracting, assessing, recruiting, and coaching. And of course, getting people hired is really a big passion of mine. So who are you? What do you do? What do you stand for? What makes you tick? These are the questions that everybody wants to know. And I always suggest that you not sell, you're simply telling, but the way you tell is by marketing yourself. The marketing piece to a job search is very, very strong. And if you know how to do it, and today hopefully you'll get a little better at it, I believe you'll come across more professional, and you may even create kind of an attraction to your employer, potential future employer. But you got to start with who you are. Now, I mentioned at the beginning, the onset of this presentation, I know people think less is more, but when it comes to PowerPoint, you're supposed to not kill people, but I believe more is better. So I'm going to give you everything I can. It's going to come in lots of lines, but it's all meaningful and it'll be real easy to read. So if you discover who you are, you want to first understand that you cannot dwell on the unemployment syndrome. It's the kiss of death. If you feel sorry for yourself, if you're going through your recovery of losing a job, you need to kind of go through that morning, go through that anger period or whatever frustration, and just get through it so that you can take a deep breath and make this thing a more productive type of campaign. Because people will share and they'll empathize, sympathize with you, but they're going to expect you to move on and be brave and do your thing, just like they had to do. Almost everybody has gone through this that I know, or you will go through it if you haven't. But you've got things to do here, and I can read every single line, but if we kind of go down to assessing who you are, you've got to develop your stories. You need to be able to talk about what you've done for companies. It's what's in it for the company, not what's in it for you, but what's in it for them. And your stories are marketing pitches in kind of disguise. You're not bragging about what you've done. You're talking about a past comparable accomplishment. Because, and we'll talk about a little bit about this, is one of the mindsets is that in an interview, you pretend you're the doctor and the hiring authority is the patient. And what do you do when you are sick or you go to the doctor? The doctor is going to ask questions so he or she can understand what's wrong, what's ailing you. What kind of medication are you taking? What are your symptoms? What kind of history of illness in your family? It's the same thing in a job interview, which we will cover today as well. But having stories ready to go, you need to get that really outlined in your head. I always suggest to have a minimum of eight stories. So hire a coach, start an accountability job search group, maybe pair up with the people that you're meeting today or that you've already known. Obviously, the boot camp is here for one singular mission, and that is to get people up and running with who you are, what you're doing, how to conduct a professional job search campaign, and use the connectivity and the harmony of the group to hold you accountable to doing the right things the right way. Your LinkedIn profile is 100% used by executive search firms all over the world. They use LinkedIn exclusively as their database. If your keywords are not ranking high, you're not going to be found. You're not going to be seen. So get LinkedIn or get left out. I've got more coming up on that. Your resume should be developed by an expert. Unless you are a resume writer, then I would suggest you get one and have somebody look at it so that you make sure that it speaks to your strengths and your competencies. And the bullets need to be developed as action equaling a result type statement. That's the biggest mistake on resumes that I've seen forever. And I've seen thousands of resumes where people use job description statements as bullets when the bullet needs to be a highlight of something you did above and beyond the call of duty, something that was not part of your job description, or maybe it was, and you did something very significant during your employment at the company. And you must be able to talk about who you are. I know that this is a ritual of networking. Networking is the lifeblood of every career, and you really do need to have a kick-ass and dialed-in elevator pitch. So be ready for that and know who you are. Discover everything on this page and just be ready for it, and be enthusiastic and confident. Two of the greatest words in the English language: enthusiasm and confidence. So those three things at the bottom, that pretty much sets you up. Your assignment today at the end of this presentation is make sure you've scripted this out in so many ways that it makes sense and it sounds very comfortable as you rehearse, as you deliver. Again, it's practice, and that's what this is all about, is just knowing what you need to practice. This is the knowledge transfer that I'm sharing with you, and then you've got to go and do the sweat equity and the heavy lifting to get it done, right? Okay, so what's your ideal company? What are you looking for? If I was to say, hey, I'm sorry to hear you lost your job, what would constitute the ideal company? You need to be ready for that. Oh, I'm looking for something in pharmaceutical, medical products, engineering, manufacturing, DoD, aerospace. That doesn't really help me. You need to be specific about the names of companies. I can't stress this enough. You better have your top 5 companies right here, top of your head, ready to talk about in a very, a very structured way. If a company that you're targeting is not well known, you need to describe what kind of company and what kind of service or product that they deliver or manufacture. Okay. So again, I'm going through 11 different things today. There are 11 on this presentation. And there are a lot of little things that you're going to be able to kind of zero in on that you need help about, or that you hadn't thought of, or maybe it's a refresher. Whatever size it is that makes each of you uniquely attracted to it, then, God bless you. Those are the things that you really want to focus on. If it's something you realized you haven't done yet, well, this is the impetus to try to, sit down tomorrow and review this presentation and start, putting an action plan together to restage or reprogram, relaunch your job search with some of this information. So I know we've got a lot of lines here. I want to be cognizant of the time. I'm not going to read every one, but there are a lot of things on here that you could do that maybe if everyone has done everything on this list, if there's any one person, please speak up. But the chances of that happening probably are not entirely possible. But, when I ask somebody, what are you looking for in the ideal job? And if they say I'm industry agnostic or I'm open to opportunities, it's like a total letdown for me. It means they're not prepared. It means they haven't even given it any thought. And it reflects poorly on that individual because they're just flippantly telling me something like I'm supposed to guess. And if you do that with a recruiting firm, a recruiter, you know, I was kind of different. I would penetrate with questions and investigate and try to pursue, you know, what the real objective was. But most recruiters are going to say, listen, when you figure out what you're open to opportunities means, call me back. But it just doesn't work when you do this kind of approach. So everything I've listed here, you need to be ready for. It's a lot. I mean, no one said job search was easy. If it was that easy, we'd all have 5 job offers and it would be 0% unemployment. So anything on this that stands out or that you have a question on, please jump right in. If you've got a question, put it on chat. I know that Christy will flag me and we'll talk about it. Want to just highlight, I think that's pretty much it. So who are you goes back to a little bit more about your identity. I've always been a fan of this quote by Socrates. We all know he's long gone, but very, very wise in his day. The ultimate power is to know thyself. Who are you? What do you do? Why do you do what you do? Why is there a benefit to a company? What are your greatest deliverables? That's a great question. I would ask that to everyone. What's your number one deliverable? If you can't answer it, go into your highest and best use. I like to say, what do you do better than anyone this side of the equator? Think about that. What's the one thing that a company would be glad to pay you what you're worth to deliver in that organization in your role? And you need to kind of phrase that. You need to be able to brand it. You need to have a mantra, motto, or slogan. I like to say, if I'm a recruiter, I like to say, hire smart or manage tough. That's what I would say to a hiring authority as a recruiter. If I'm talking to a job seeker, an executive in transition between opportunities, I would say, you know, job security is really the ability to secure a job. Are you ready to execute a professional job search campaign? I want to cause them to think. Much less the doctor, much like the doctor, when you're sick, will ask you questions so he or she can determine a remedy or a possible solution. And are you forgettable or memorable? Our good friend John Labonte always said that. If you're not memorable in your meetings and your conversations, well, that means you're going to be forgotten. And that means you're not prepared or you're not delivering or really speaking to your highest and best use. So your plan, I actually got this acronym from Kimberly Rausch years ago. If you may remember Kimberly to a degree. I mean, I know she's one of the early people involved with the boot camp. So the passion, the lessons, the accomplishments, and the needs. What I did is I took it to another level, and I kind of broke it into subheadings for each one of the items listed as part of your plan. And it just kind of gives you a little bit more of an idea of what you need to be prepared for. If you look at the needs, I created the subheading of this, and these are your needs, not the company's needs. Remember, it's your plan. And I always like to share how to make the ultimate right, correct decision, and that you can go and use people, challenge, balance, and worth as your 4 criteria when you're evaluating every opportunity, every job opportunity, every organization. The people in the organization are always going to be number 1. Can you learn from them? Can they learn from you? Do you like them? Do they like you? Can you work with them for 5 to 10 years and not hate it? These are instinctive types of feelings. You've got to really listen and share and decide, do I really want to work with these people? Do I really want to report to this supervisor or boss or owner? And then challenge. If it's not challenging, it's boring. If it's boring, you're climbing the wall. You're looking for a new job in 6 months. It's got to be challenging. You got to have good reasons to get out of bed in the morning. And that's the vision, the passion, the love of what you do, and the challenge. You don't get out of money. You don't get out of bed in the morning because of money. You're making money. Your bank account balance does not get you out of bed, right? Balance is work-life balance. It changes as you get older. I see a lot of young faces on the call. If you've got kids in school, they're playing soccer, you've got a lot of obligations, you've got distractions, family obligations. That changes as we mature and grow older. The kids grow up, they go to school, college, they get, married, and they have families of their own. Now you're an empty nester. And if you're at that level, your work-life balance is different. You can be told, I need you to get to Albany, New York tomorrow morning for the weekend because we've got a major meeting on Monday. You would say no problem because your work-life balance is allowing you to be able to do that. Changes as you get older. You got to think about what your balance is in order for you to decide, is this the right kind of company? And then worth. Worth simply means, can they afford to pay you what you're worth? Are you going to be making a fair and equitable salary? I always like to say, you always are seeking to remain whole, right? You want to, whatever it is, the salary, we got a little slide on this, a big slide actually. Your salary comprises of guaranteed cash compensation. You've got incentive/bonus. You've got profit sharing, maybe even partial ownership. If you're at the executive level, you've got vacation time. All that stuff is, can they afford to pay you what you're worth? And will they keep you whole based on your prior package that you had with either a former employer or in line with where you're going with your career as far as continued earnings and progress throughout your career? Any questions on slide number, I don't know what number it is, but number 3. So marketing and strategy. Just remember this, network is a verb, not just a noun. So think about that. Make sure that you're out there. You're going to have to market yourself. Don't sell. Selling sucks. No one wants to be sold. Who likes walking on a used car parking lot? Anybody? Raise your hand. I'm sorry. It's the last thing. I'd rather, I don't know, wallpaper my wall, and I hate wallpaper. So market yourself. It's sexy. Marketing, it's non-threatening, right? You're proud about an example you're talking about, something you went through that led to a very significant accomplishment, and you're really proud of it. Makes you happy. And you did it for a company. That's marketing. That's not selling. And these are bullets on your resume that come alive in the interview. There's storytelling. It's the absolute ultimate way to go in and eliminate competition in an interview. By the way, chapter 5 in my book is all about the interview mindset. And we're going to talk about that in one of the slides coming up. So what is your brand? Here's 5 easy questions. Maybe not so easy, but we talked a little bit about, we're leading up to a lot of fun here. What makes you tick? Okay, read the the subset of this branding question. You know, why have you been successful? What can you deliver? What are your specific, relatable, past comparable accomplishments? And you need to find that out before you start rattling them off. What does the company need? Remember, it's about the company, not you. When you're in an interview, you're marketing yourself towards the company needs. All right? How do you improve your work environment? This is things you've done. You've got to look back into the Wayback Machine and figure out these specific examples that you need to be ready and talk about. And if you don't know your top 8 strengths or your top 8 best competencies or natural skills that you have, you better do a self-examination. There are a lot of different assessments that I do that I work with my clients so I can understand what makes them tick and what their brand is. And why are you in demand? Why? What's in it for the employer? We talked about that. You need to be thinking about what's in it for them. Don't make it about, I need a company with 100 million to 500 million and with 150 employees, and they're going to double it to 250, and they've got a really great, reputable product. You're all of a sudden, you're just talking about me, 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 me. That's fine. You have those goals, you have those objectives for the ideal company. But when you're in an interview, you have to really be ready to talk about what you can deliver and make a difference in their organization based on their needs. Going back to the doctor-patient method mindset of interviewing to determine what they really need before you can insert a past comparable accomplishment, which is a bullet on your resume. And why should they hire you? What makes you unique? Simply answer that. Go back to question number 2. What can you deliver? Any questions? Fire away. Put them on the chat. Happy to address each and every one of your thoughts. So how do you find a new job? I mean, if you're not an extrovert, maybe you're a hybrid introvert and extrovert, you're going to need to push yourself. If you're an introvert, you need to really kind of, take some deep breaths, fight the bullet, fight the switch, and really go out there and put yourself out and be known. You really need to work through friends, work through your community, the people you know, right? Obviously, your networks in this group, you've got other meetings, you've got other associations, you've got good, successful friends. I always like to know when I go to a networking event, I want to zero in on the most powerful, the most connected, the highest ranking person. And I'll always ask everybody I'm having coffee with or just in a circle of influence type of people. And I'll put the question out to the group, who's the most powerful, most connected, most successful person in this room? And they'll all have someone to point out. And I'll say, if I go to that person, introduce myself, can I use your name? Do they know you? Yes or no? If they say yes, great. You've got a nice introduction. I was referred by Christy just a few seconds ago, and she suggested I come over and introduce myself. You need to be ready for these things. If they say no, well, then there's no referral. It's not going to work. So work with what you can get, meaning ask people to qualify the referral. Can I use your name? How well do you know them? Have you done business with them? Understand the relationship so that you really know what you're getting into. Okay? And this makes you better. It makes you more fluent at working with your networks. Okay? Any thoughts or questions? It's kind of a hedgehog thing, a takeoff on Jim Collins when he wrote the book Good to Great. It's all about the company, the people, and the mission. And does everybody work together in a cohesive unit to make a company great? Same thing with networking, right? So here's a few things real quick. Do not be anyone that no one had referred you to. Don't be a nobody that nobody sent. In other words, if you don't have a referral, you're doing a cold call. And if you're doing cold calls, good luck. You're not going to like yourself at the end of the day because cold calls are not really that successful. I'm a recruiter by trade, and I hate making cold calls. If I'm not referred by somebody, I really dread making an introduction. Hi, my name is Mark James. You don't know me, but, and I hate that. I don't want to ever have to say it. So you always want to be referred by someone, and you know how to do that. Get permission, understand the relevance of the referral, meaning the connection in the relationship and how that plays out. Christy suggested I give you a call. She indicated that you are ABC and that you might be able to, and I love this phrase, point me in the right direction. Write it down. Point me in the right, can you please point me in the right direction? I'm seeking ABC, whatever that is. Can you please point me in the right direction? It's so much more effective than saying, can you help me find a job, which you would never say, right? So warm leads, warm referrals, calls, put it in a file, register it up top, and don't do it. I talked about enthusiasm, confidence. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. What does that mean? You better be really, really good at listening. In fact, I would 2 times more listening and 1 times or 50% less talking. When you're in an interview or you're in a networking event, ask good questions, get other people talking first. When you're a good listener to what they're saying, the pendulum will shift and it will gradually come back to you, and they'll say, so what do you do? Tell me about yourself. And it's teed up for you. It's perfect. You already know who you're talking to. Is it a quality individual that you really want to develop that relationship with? Or maybe they won't be as helpful as you would like them to be. So you work it that way, but you already know who you're dealing with. Isn't that what you want before you start launching into who you are? Always ask questions first, get them talking first, and then you talk last, and then say thank you and follow up with a LinkedIn intro or a follow-up email. And if you really want to meet with them, you suggest it before you finish. Hey, I'd like to connect with you on LinkedIn. Let's set up a time to have a cup of coffee one-to-one, because you're around all these people and there's no time to really get to know each other other than getting that one-to-one set up in a couple of days, the next week or whatever, okay? I already talked about being a giver. You've got the Universal Law of Serendipity. It is a true law. Everything happens for a reason, and it's all about your choices, the choices you make. You push the snooze button in the morning and you go back to sleep, or you pop up and you do what you got to do. I said, introverts, you need to push yourselves. You really need to jump out of your shell. Extroverts, be careful. You could intimidate, overwhelm people. So control yourself, right? Ask questions and listen, extroverts. Don't go into your dog and pony feature benefit type of presentation too quickly. You'll overwhelm people, and the introverts that you're talking to will just be completely overwhelmed. It doesn't work. I know this, maybe it's stuff that you already know, maybe it's a refresher, maybe you're not thinking about it and it's becoming more of an enlightenment. That's great. So however this helps, I hope you can, put it to work as soon as you can.
Hey, Mark.
I always like to have most valuable 12 career contacts. Those are the people that are on your career board of directors. These are the ones you really know, trust, respect, and love like a brother, sister. Okay? These are the ones
Mark?
that, yes, go ahead.
Mark, there's a question from Valerie. Is the listening strategy as relevant in job interviews as it is in informationals?
Absolutely, because you're always asking questions and you're always listening, and taking notes is an excellent way to show a sign of respect that you're paying attention. I always like to make a special point on something that was said so I can go back to it to alert the person that I was listening, right? Very important part of communication. This is known as emotional intelligence, not EQ, not IQ, but EQ. That is the norm today. So having that good way of communicating with people and listening is so effective, even in a job interview, in a real job interview. If you are asked a question and you think you understand the question, but you don't really understand before you answer, you better ask for clarification, because if you answer incorrectly, thinking you know what they want to hear or what they are looking for, you haven't listened or you haven't clarified before you answer, and it could cost you the interview. So with informational interviews is a really good area. It's the one thing I haven't talked about in this presentation, but it is the #1 way for job seekers to land a new job. For every 12 informational interviews that you conduct with 12 different people, the opportunity to get one formal interview out of every 12 starts to happen. So it's a 12-to-1 thing, 12 informational interviews, and that is conducting these with people who have jobs and asking them about their business. What's their company like? Where's the business going? Again, you're asking questions, you're listening, you're taking notes, and you're following up. But then you get a chance to impress them with you based on your question techniques. If they're impressed, they're going to say, hey, are you interested in joining our company? If you obviously want to let them know that that is a possibility, that they are on your list of targets. If they're not, you're just kind of getting a sampling of what's happening in the industry. So it is, yes, all the above, Christy, with regards to listening. It's the ultimate skill set or things that you need to work on. I would say listening would be in the top 2 or 3. Hopefully that helped. So you got the rest of this. Stay visible. You're already attending different meetings. You're always going to keep sharing, helping other people along the way. That's what matters most. And you'll be thought of and remembered as someone who's very likable and helpful, thoughtful, which helps you be remembered instead of forgotten, right? Okay, develop advocates. This is what I was just talking about. It's not what you know or who you know, it's who knows you and what they're saying about you. This is the ultimate paradigm that has become, and you need to educate your network on why you are doing what you're doing, your highest and best use. If they don't know, then it's a secret, right? So don't keep your search a secret. You need to be out there. You need to be contacting immediately your top 12. Maybe it's 8, maybe it's 6 or 10. But make sure they know exactly what's going on in your world, your career. And the approach, I can't say it enough. You're marketing, you're not selling. You're asking for help in the form of point me in the right direction. Can you point me in the right direction? You're asking for advice. That's flattering. I need your advice. If you were me, what would you do? It's very common, very easy way to get people, and it's a question because you're going to be able to listen. You're getting advice. That's the beautiful thing about job searches. You don't have to talk as much as you think you do. Just ask really good questions. And then when you get a chance, be ready with your story. Your story needs to be ready so that you can deliver your highest and best use, your greatest deliverables, your target company, maybe top 5, right? Your top 5 targets, and what you stand for, what makes you tick. What's your passion? So you act like a detective. Hidden jobs, I'm going to read it because it's really important. Emblazon this in your head. Hidden jobs are a non-published, non-advertised, little-known collection of newly created roles, openings, and opportunities that only insiders, attorneys, accountants, golfing buddies, neighbors, alumni, consultants, service providers. Don't forget the service providers, even a realtor, or your auto mechanic. These are people that know, and you wouldn't suspect it. Bank tellers, I don't care who they are. Managing partners, company owners, company officers, board members, board advisors, C-suite executives, they are all in the know. And they are your link to finding out what's going on, okay? Don't leave any stone uncovered. Kissing a lot of frogs here. You're gonna get, sorry, don't know anybody. Sorry, I'm not sure I can help, but I'll remember. And then don't forget, when you're getting information, if you're asking these questions, be genuine, be authentic, and say, hey, you know, I really want to thank you. You've been very helpful. I appreciate your advice. Is there anything I can do for you? Do not forget to say that. Is there anything I can do for you? It's one of the top three, if not number one. You need to offer the reciprocal of help. If somebody, even if they can't help you, you always, it's a terrific gesture. Always say, is there anything I can do to help you? Okay? And you can say, I'm very connected. I have a lot of good connections. I'm very well positioned on LinkedIn. Happy to make introductions. You know, I know a great dentist. I don't know. If they need a wealth management advisor, I know a great, you know, whatever. You don't have to make it about jobs. You can make it about anything under the sun, right? LinkedIn and search firms, we talked a little bit about it. You better get organized, because this is how you're going to be found. Okay, if you're not ranking high, you're behind the eight ball. You really need to kind of focus on getting your visibility, your banner, your about section in your LinkedIn profile is definitely viewed if they're interested in your header. And don't make your header filled with job titles and names of companies. That's valuable billboard space. Get rid of them and put down categories of expertise and what you deliver, your highest and best use to an organization. Okay? And don't, you know, if you're not updating your resume and or your LinkedIn profile indicating that you are remote work ready. Companies need this. They want to know we're getting better at it. We've been forced into this, you know, out of nowhere. It was a sudden type of lockdown that forced us into our homes. You better be up and running. You're on Zoom. What other technologies are you working with? What other systems that are you familiar with? Are you working with a calendar kind of system, a schedule system? Are you really organized from a standpoint that a company would be impressed with? And
hey, Mark, another
yeah.
question from Andrew. How do you know if you're ranked high or not in LinkedIn?
Well, you can go, what's the word when somebody fill me in on this? When you're on Google, you can go, you take your profile down and your, gosh, what's the name of it? I just drew a blank. Somebody knows what I'm talking about, where you can look at LinkedIn as an outsider without being logged in, and you can do keyword searches to find out who is ranking number one based on your keywords, right? And I can't think of it, but you're kind of disguised on Google, And then you can go in and do keyword search on LinkedIn through Google as to who's ranking the highest, top 25.
Okay,
So
I think
I've done-
Bill Laser said that it's social selling index or something like that. We have a couple more questions. When someone has given you time, are email thank you notes okay instead of paper?
Email is only half baked, okay? Email is
A
immediate.
little too easy, huh?
Yeah, it's easy, but you never know if they're going to get it, and it's too easy to delete. Okay, great. Thank you. I got that email. I got 500 other emails to look at. But if you send a thank you note in a card, like thank you on the outside, blank on the inside, handwritten, if you've got good handwriting, if not, print. I think it's almost like a trophy. I've got 2 of them in my office, thank you notes that I received in the mail through my mail Post-Atlantics. And because that's what the address that I use. And sometimes people don't have an address now that they're working remotely, but you can still send it to the company and the company will forward all mail. So I would always, and it's another touch. So you send an email after the interview or after the informational interview or the coffee, and then you send a thank you note and it's another touch. And
no, that's really good. We've got so many questions, Mark, and we're almost out of time. So what are some key things that you want to cover so we can cover some of these other questions?
Yeah, thanks for that. You know, the LinkedIn formula, really important. Spend an hour every day, do 5 likes on posts, do 3 contribution comments on posts, and 1 shared periodical article or post. If you do this, you're going to be seen, you're going to be found. This is really important stuff. Okay?
Okay.
LinkedIn.
And let's put in another question here. What's the best strategy to reconnect or re-engage with those you have networked with previously, i.e. those who are potential hiring managers?
Well, if you haven't talked with them in over a year, well, it becomes a little self-serving, but you got to eat a little crow and say, hey, sorry, it's been so long. I'm just following up, see how things are going. You know, you've got to be comfortable doing it. Just break out of your shell and fight that feeling of, you know, hey, I should have done something sooner and I feel bad about not reaching out sooner. But, you know, say it up front. And then, you know, I would like to know how things are going. Did you guys ever fill that position that I was talking to you about? Has anything changed since we last spoke? Great phrase, great question. It gets them talking about what's happening. Does that help?
I think that that's great. There's another question. How do you know who's a great LinkedIn expert? We know people who have spent a lot of money on past experts. How do you find a great LinkedIn expert?
Well,
do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, I mean, there's a person by the name of Ted Robison who's a genius.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody knows Ted. Well, I went through his training years and years ago when we became friends and he was my speaker. So I learned from the best. And, you know, there's a lot of tutorials that LinkedIn gives away for free. And you can do top 25 tips for job seekers and Google that to improve your LinkedIn profile. And you'll get a myriad of different suggestions and ideas. So I always say the banner needs to be really well developed, your about section, and then each company that you work for, you need to have some bullets that similar to your resume, not identical, but pretty much mirroring the resume, because if they look at your LinkedIn first, which most recruiters do, they're going to want to say, well, why didn't you put it on your resume? Or why isn't it on LinkedIn if it's on your resume? So you got to be careful, do the check and balance, right?
Right. Okay. Ready to rumble. Let's go through a couple things. There you go.
Yeah, real quick. These are things you're going to get this whole copy of this if we don't get to every one of the lines. But a lot of this has been leading up. I've already talked a little bit about it. Nothing is unusual here other than if you've never done a mock interview, why would you go into a major critical interview if you've not practiced? So work with somebody that can be an objective responder to your answers. If you're not doing well, they should be able, you give them permission, give it to me, don't hold back, right? You want to know what you're doing right and what you could improve on, right?
Okay, so we need to wrap up, and it looks like we've got some requests for you to be here again.
Okay. I'm just going to really quick, this is in my book, Negotiation. Everything we've talked about, don't bid against yourself, get everything in writing, all the highlighted. Plan B is the new plan A. This is the last slide. If in fact you are tired of the corporate merry-go-round, there are a lot of options out there to create revenue streams. If those of you that are interested in the entrepreneurial track, I also coach a plan B in addition to plan A. Plan B is the entrepreneurial, plan A is the corporate track. Very, very popular today with executives and people who are fed up with working with companies and they want to go and have more freedom and flexibility.
Well, Mark,
this is it. That's it.
We are going to get you on the calendar again, and we can talk about how best to, because there are a ton of questions. And so thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining us. We're going to send out the recording later today with Mark's deck. Reach out to Mark. Mark is a wealth of information, as you can probably tell. And yes, we are sending the recording out. And for those of you, we're developing quite the YouTube channel. We have most of our recordings on YouTube now, and it's in a private channel. But so can't wait for you to use this to reference, and you will get the deck that Mark mentioned. And we're going to have him back. So Mark,